part of the work-life balance is figuring out how to establish a consistent work schedule. For the most part, most of my work is 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock most days of the week. And then after that, we go out, we explore, we go to the gym, we do that work-life balance, like the fun stuff in the afternoons. So for the most part, I do a pretty good job of sticking to that. But if you're thinking about this lifestyle, that's definitely something to consider. What is my consistent work schedule going to be so I can plan the rest of my life around it? Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Managing a successful private practice can be challenging, even if you have all the skills and experience you need to support clients. Most training programs offer little to no guidance on running your own business. That's why Alma gives clinicians the tools they need to build a thriving private practice. When you join Alma, you can get credentialed with major insurance payers within 45 days, as well as guaranteed payment within 2 weeks of each session. You can also attract clients who are the right fit for your practice with a free profile in Alma's searchable directory. As you build your caseload, Alma also offers time-saving tools and administrative support, so you can spend less time on paperwork and more time delivering great care to your clients. Visit helloalma.com/Kim to download your free guide to identifying and connecting with clients who are the right fit for your practice. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get your guide. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. Today I decided to do a listener question episode because I get questions all the time. And sometimes I like to just come over here and record my answers to them, particularly when they're questions that I get over and over and over again. And a big one that people always ask me is about the work-life balance as a traveling therapist. So the question, this is from Becca S. And she says, I'm a traveling therapist and I often find it challenging to establish a consistent work routine when I'm constantly on the move. How can I create a sense of stability in my work-life balance and ensure that I'm taking care of my mental well-being while traveling? So this is a tough question. Ken and I were just actually laying in bed the other night. We were trying to find an Airbnb to book for our next place that we want to stay. We haven't really decided where that is, but we're thinking it's probably going to be like the Bahamas maybe, or at least somewhere in the Caribbean. So we're looking through Airbnbs. And as we're doing that, we're hearing the toilet in the other room of this condo that we're staying in flushing itself every 2 minutes. So literally this toilet just is running constantly. We've done all the things, take the top off, shake the chain, that whole thing to try to get it to stop. We've contacted the owner. They're working on it. It's been 2 weeks now. And we started reflecting on all of these Airbnbs we stay in, and we started going back to every Airbnb since we've been doing this, since February 2022. And we were like, oh yeah, I remember that Airbnb, it had this problem with it, it had this problem with it. And we were reflecting, it's like, gosh, this is kind of stressful actually. Like you move into a new place for a month or 2 weeks or however long we're going to be there, even a week sometimes. That's more rare now, but it does happen. But you move in and immediately there's problems and you have to contact the owner and you have to say, hey, this problem is going on. And most of them are pretty nice, but for the most part, it feels like you're sort of a complainer and, I just don't like it. But reflecting upon it, we're like, oh yeah, remember that Airbnb? Remember the one where the internet didn't work at all for a whole month? Like we were just going back through it and it's like, gosh, it's kind of a stressful lifestyle in a way, like having to adapt to a new place and get comfortable there and make sure everything's working to your liking. It's tough. So I just thought this was a timely question because we were just talking about this, how the work-life balance isn't exactly perfect, especially when you're just on the go all the time and having to adapt and adjust to new places. So I just want to get into it a little bit. And I thought about this and I was like, how can I answer this question effectively? So I decided I was just going to break this down into different parts that made sense to me for talking about this work-life balance dilemma or issue that comes up for people when they're on the road or digital nomads. So the first part, I want to talk about the unique challenges of being a traveling therapist, and then the impact it has on your personal life, because it does, and then some strategies for achieving that work-life balance, and then the role of boundaries in your life, how important that is, especially if you're on the road like this. And another part of it, coping with the isolation and loneliness, that's another part that comes up with this whole work-life balance thing. So I want to just talk about all these different parts. First, the distinct challenges that the traveling therapist faces in terms of the work-life balance. So frequent changes in work environments and routines. So that's what I was talking about before. This, everywhere you go, it's a new place. The internet has a different speed. There's sounds outside and all around you that can be distracting and interrupt the sessions that you're trying to have. The desk setup, if there even is a desk, can be put in really weird places where maybe the router isn't reaching it exactly, or it's right in the middle of the living room. I don't know why anybody puts a desk in the living room, but I have to move furniture around and put it in a private place so I can remain HIPAA compliant and can't hear my sessions. Even on my end, if a person can hear my part of the conversation, that's still a HIPAA violation because technically they could figure out who it was if they knew the person. So you have to be careful about that. So every time you get to a new place, you're having to think about all of these logistics and make sure it's set up properly for you. And then part of that also is establishing a consistent work schedule. So this has been tough for me to have this consistent work schedule because I'm a nice person. I like to be flexible. If I know a time doesn't really work for my clients, sometimes I've been known to still see them, even though it's not on my ideal schedule. For example, I have a 5 o'clock Wednesday nights every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how we book, that I just can't seem to move her. School teacher, it's the only time that works. I've been seeing her for years. And I really don't mind the session, but I hate doing it at that time. But that's one example of something I should be better with and probably have a better consistent work schedule and not do that. But I do. So part of the work-life balance is figuring out how to establish a consistent work schedule. For the most part, most of my work is 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock most days of the week. And then after that, we go out, we explore, we go to the gym, we do that work-life balance, like the fun stuff in the afternoons. So for the most part, I do a pretty good job of sticking to that. But if you're thinking about this lifestyle, that's definitely something to consider. What is my consistent work schedule going to be so I can plan the rest of my life around it? So you're not just having a client at 9 and then 3, and then you can't really go and do anything because you have to hang out and wait for that next appointment. That doesn't work very well, especially with this nomadic lifestyle where you're trying to actually explore places that you're visiting. And then the other part of that is balancing that self-care and exploration during your travel. So these could be things related to slow travel is something basically that we have adopted. We used to jet from Montana to, I don't know, Tennessee in 2 days and just try to knock it out. But we realized that's exhausting to do. So these last couple of trips, we've really slowed it down. We've put space in between. We've decided, hey, if it takes 2 weeks to get to the next place, that's fine. We'll just take our time. We don't want to drive more than maybe 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day. No more of these like 12-hour driving days, 3 days in a row, just to get to a new location. So balancing that self-care and then exploration during travel. So being able to even stop along the way in Rapid City, South Dakota, if you want to just hang out there for a week while you're going from place to place. Or what's another one? Davenport, Iowa. We booked 2 days in Davenport, Iowa, just so we could check out the town, take it slow, and just work our way down to the next place that we were going to. So that's been good for me, balancing that self-care and then being able to still do some exploration and not just like rushing to get from place to place. That's been helpful for me with that work-life balance. Let's see. So the next sort of part I thought about with this and traveling and being a traveling therapist and having that work-life balance is the impact on your personal life. So this is definitely an aspect of it. So when you're in a different place all the time, obviously it's hard to maintain relationships and connections with people in your life. For example, most of my family is in Virginia and they're all about within a 2 hour radius of each other. And I miss out on family events all the time because I'm just not there. I guess this goes for anybody that even lives away from their family. But it's hard because you do miss out on things. You miss out on birthday parties or the first day of school or just soccer games, being able to be involved in that stuff with the little kids, the nephews, and kind of missing out on them growing up. So that has been hard for me. The way I've tried to manage that is I try to at least schedule 1 month a year where I'm back in town. This year it was August. We were back. I got to stay with one sister for a week. I got to stay with another sister for a couple weeks. We had our own place down in Richmond, Virginia, where we really love the city down there. So we stayed down there for a week. I got to catch up with some friends. I got my fill of family. And then in the meantime, thank goodness for technology because I'm able to FaceTime all the time with my little nephew. The older ones don't really care about me that much anymore. They're busy. They like to say hi, but that's about all they have to say. But the little one, he's 6, just started school. He's nervous about riding the school bus. So his Aunt Kim can call and talk to him on FaceTime for a little bit. And that's good. So being able to maintain that. We'll invite family members to come visit us when we have like an Airbnb that maybe has 3 bedrooms. We do that with Ken's mom. She's come out and met us quite a few times. I've had some friends come out and meet me in different places. I keep tabs on my online community, and when there's people that I know live in a certain area or people in the traveling therapist membership down in South Florida, I've reached out to a couple of people in the membership just to say, hey, do you guys want to hang out for a little bit while I'm here? So those are the ways I try to, balance that personal life when I'm on the road all the time because it can, get a little bit lonely. Talking about that other area I had mentioned, that loneliness, I've built a support network on the road. You guys have probably heard me talk about my business besties, Megan Smith Gunnell, Gabrielle Giuliani Villano, Andrea Bragnano, Ashley Hubbard, and quite a few others. I could go on, but I do have an online relationship with a lot of them. We will chat all day long. It really helps me feel just connected to girlfriends because while Ken is great to travel with, he doesn't, he's not a girl, he's not a woman. He doesn't talk about womanly things. So it's nice to have these girls, and we're all in the same boat. We're multi-passionate entrepreneurs. We're building multiple businesses. We have Facebook groups. We have a lot in common. So it's really good to have that support network. And I can maintain that, obviously, being remote and traveling all over the world. And we do get to connect a lot. Sometimes we'll meet up for different conferences, or there was that time we all just decided to hop a plane and go to Scottsdale to scout locations for one of Megan's upcoming conferences she was going to do. We just got an Airbnb and we just hung out all weekend. Super fun. So I do try to do stuff like that as to kind of combat that loneliness.
Building a private practice can be challenging. I know for me, when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to manage paperwork. I knew nothing about insurance billing. The whole process was really daunting. Building a private practice can be challenging, to say the least. I remember when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to navigate insurance. I had no idea even what paperwork was required. So growing a caseload, navigating insurance, and managing billing and paperwork all take significant amounts of time. And that's all in addition to delivering great care to your clients. That's why Alma gives clinicians the tools they need to build a thriving private practice. When you join their insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. So in addition to their insurance program, Alma also offers time-saving tools and administrative support, so you can spend less time on paperwork and more time delivering great care to your clients and traveling the world. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's hello, ALMA.com/KYM to get started.
And I've got Ken with me. So that's really nice to have a partner that I'm traveling with. We have a lot of really similar interests. We love to exercise. We love to explore towns and just walk around. We like to go to nice restaurants. So we have a lot of fun stuff we do together in these places that really combats that loneliness. For solo travelers, I've talked to a lot of solo travelers, and they talk about it can get lonely, but really establishing a support network in different places that you're going to. A lot of people reach out to expat communities and meetup.com and participate in activities and things that are going on around wherever they're staying. If it's like a month or a couple months, Diana Liao, she's been on the podcast twice. She talks a lot about that. She's sort of a solo traveler. She's just been on the road for, I guess, a couple of years now, but she always manages to develop these really cool communities and meet up with them. And in the Traveling Therapist membership, we had Shayla Peterson come in too. She's a military spouse, but loves to travel. And she talked about just what that journey has been like for her, traveling all over the world as a military spouse, and how she made a network for herself. She created a network called TheraFriends. It's like remote therapists that want to connect and have a relationship, and it's a membership she has now. So there's lots of ways to combat that and also balance out that personal life issue that can come up if you're trying to do the traveling therapist or digital nomad thing. I wanted to just talk a little bit about strategies for achieving that work-life balance. Talked about some already and how I manage that, but just to name a few other things, really prioritizing self-care and mental well-being. So if you're on the road, it's hard to get therapy if you want to do that. But there are ways around it if you need regular therapy, because most of us know if you're not physically in the state of licensure for that clinician, you can't see them. They can't see you. They're not allowed to with their licensure. So one way around that is to find a SIPAC therapist if you're in the States and you're going from state to state. I think they have approval to see clients in 30 or 35 states or something like that. So sometimes that's a good option. You could get a therapist in another country that doesn't have regulations like that. So you could search country directories for therapists and see if somebody resonates. They won't be able to take your insurance, but it would be definitely a self-pay situation. But that's a way to have a consistent therapist that doesn't have to worry about these state regulations that we do in the United States. What are some other ways? I've got apps. I've got Insight Timer and sleep apps and just different apps that I'll use occasionally to meditate or do some guided visualizations, or some shamanic journeys. I'll use those apps. I also, in the Traveling Therapist membership, I created a whole part of that where it's self-care and prioritizing self-care. So every single month we have a fun type activity. For example, we have a intuitive life coach coming in this month, and she's going to pull our tarot cards, and she's going to tell us what's holding us back from building multiple income streams. That's the topic this month in the Traveling Therapist, and it's super helpful. So I love that stuff. One time I brought in a yoga instructor, I brought in a Zumba instructor, I brought in October, we're bringing in a dream analysis person that's going to talk about our dreams and how to use them to help us on our traveling adventures. Some really cool things, but I incorporated that into the membership because I know as a traveling therapist, I need that mind, body, life, work balance aspect where I'm doing some fun things. We also had a happy hour of the traveling therapist membership this month, and everybody really liked it. So we're just going to do that every month. We're just going to have an hour where we all get together and just hang out, not anything structured or learning, but just a way to connect with each other and talk about our wins and our challenges and help support each other. So the last one was really fun. But those are some strategies around that, prioritizing self-care and mental well-being. Joining a membership like the Traveling Therapist membership, where you could just put it on your schedule and know that you're always going to have these activities coming up. Other things you could do that I've done, take an art class in a city that's got a really cool art scene, or a cooking class, or anything like that. Do an excursion, book an excursion, a fishing excursion if you'd like to do that. There's all kinds of things. We booked, what was that excursion we booked? Oh, kayaking around Lake Tahoe. We just hopped on TripAdvisor and booked an excursion. It was really cool. So we'll do that in different cities to keep it interesting and fun, and also like cater to that self-care and that mental well-being piece. Another part of that, the practical strategies and tips for achieving that healthy work-life balance, is creating flexible routines that can adapt to different locations. So this is more like about time zones, trying to figure out things that work for you, having clients that are flexible. If you know that you're going to be in different time zones, you can say, hey, for the next 3 months, I'm going to be on the Pacific Coast, and that's going to adjust everything by 3 hours. Can we try to figure out a different schedule for our work together? And my clients are super flexible because they really know what I'm doing as far as traveling. So those are things to think about with that mind-body thing, leveraging like technology and teletherapy to maintain connections like we talked about. But the other part of that, I did another podcast episode with Jake Ernst. He's MSW, or Jake MSW on Instagram. He's awesome. But we did a whole thing around social media and how to help yourself sort of detoxify from being on your devices all the time. So I've really been working on that. My business coach told me to put a blocker on my computer and my phone, which has helped me to keep me off of Facebook at night, which for me with Facebook, it's not doom scrolling or just comparing myself to others. It's working. So for me, it's like I'm logging in, I'm answering questions in my Facebook groups, I'm looking at emails. I do that 24 hours a day. So part of my work-life balance has really been trying to stop doing that and have good boundaries around it, which leads me into the next part, and that is the role of having healthy boundaries in your practice. So like I was saying before, separating work time from personal time. So trying to not be on your phone working when you're hanging out with your boyfriend, watching a movie, which is something I'm super guilty of and really trying to get better at, but just putting down the devices and actually being in the moment. When you're hiking through a beautiful place, like just be there, be mindful, be in that moment. And that reminds me, we had in the membership last month, Morgan Levy, she came in and did a whole training around mindfulness and exercises you can do to help you with that boundary of just being here, being present at that moment in time with what you're doing. So that's like a super important boundary to put on yourself. And I'm learning that myself. Another part of the boundaries is talking about boundaries with your clients and your employers and anybody that you're involved with your work-life balance. For me, obviously I don't have a boss, but I do have VAs, and I've had to get really particular about making standard operating procedures for us, because it was a free-for-all, really. It was like anytime a problem came up, we just managed it however we decided to manage it at the time, but we had no procedure for it. So that is a huge focus for me right now, is these SOPs, because it's giving me boundaries. It's giving my VA all the support she needs, so I don't have to be in there micromanaging all the time. So that's, been really helpful to learn how to put those systems in place for my own boundaries, for my own work-life balance. And another part of that is so obvious to us as therapists, but it's just saying no when you need to. And that obviously is an ongoing issue for me with different things. Somebody will ask, hey, can you fit me in on a different day or time? Or, hey, the only time I want you to be on my podcast as a guest, but the only time I have is like 7 a.m. on Saturday. And it's like, oh my gosh. Okay, that's not really in my ideal work schedule. And that's something you could possibly say no to if you want to keep healthy boundaries. Me, I'm bad with that stuff. So I'd probably agree. In fact, I had a podcast interview this morning at 8 a.m. That's not something I normally do. I'm usually laying in bed drinking coffee until about 9 or 10 every morning because that's just what I like to do. Anyway, yeah, so those are some other things with boundaries. One thing we put in place is we're members of Planet Fitness. That's a work-life boundary for sure. And my boyfriend, he's really good about it because he has just a really great job where he barely has to do much work. They just call him in when they need him and they still pay him, which is amazing. He loves this job. He loves working for them, but it's really good for him. So he's really good at helping me stick to that working out boundary. So he'll say, what time can you go to the gym today? And I'll say, okay, it looks like I'm done around 1. And he'll say, okay, let's go at 1. And he'll encourage me to really keep that boundary of going to the gym and staying healthy, like with my physical health. So that's another boundary I put in place. If you can't do it for yourself, see if other people will help you stick to it. Even your online friends, having people that hold you accountable to things like that to keep you healthy can be super helpful as well. Let's see. Okay, so I think that's everything I wanted to talk about today. Becca, I hope this helps answer your question about that work-life balance. It's an ongoing challenge for me to keep that balance going. It's tough when you're in a new environment, in a new setting. It's tough when, you've got remote work issues like internet, or there isn't an ideal spot to be HIPAA compliant. That stuff can be difficult. I think just identifying the things that keep you healthy, like for me, meditation, going to the gym, spending quality time with my boyfriend, having my online girlfriends that I talk to about everything. Those are the things that keep me healthy and balanced. Talking to my family on FaceTime, staying connected with my little nephews while they're growing up, my parents on FaceTime. Those are all ways that I help myself stay balanced. So I would say start with that, thinking about what are the things that keep you healthy and well, and then stick to those boundaries we talked about. How can I set this up so it's a good schedule for me to be able to do my work, but also be able to put in all of these things that are important to me. And especially if you're a nomad or traveling therapist, you probably like to be out, immersing yourself in the culture, in the world. So you want to make sure that you're making time for that when you're in these places that you're traveling to. So I hope this helps. And I would love for you guys to submit more listener questions. I love answering these things for you. And I love to hear your feedback too. So if you have a question, you can email me at info@kimtolson.com. That's KYMTOLSON.com. You can go to the Traveling Therapist Facebook page, or you could join the Traveling Therapist membership, because what I'm going to do with this episode now is turn this into a guide for the members to let them have a work-life balance, healthy guide for them to use on their journey, and hopefully give them some ideas and encouragement to stay healthy and well on the road. So that's the membership. The membership offers a lot of really cool content like that. So I hope you'll join us over there too. It's super affordable, $21.99 a month. I'm going to be increasing that because there's so much value. It's just an insane price right now. So I'm probably going to take it up to $37.99, I think, starting in November. I'm not sure about that date yet, but I'm sure you guys will see my emails if you're on my email list about that. So yeah, so that's the work-life balance scenario, challenges, and solutions I found for that. So I hope you find it helpful. And okay, have a great day. Take care. See you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you love this episode, please leave a review.